Okay, so here we are, and this is the first episode with new guests. Name yourselves.
Hi, I'm Marqese or Queese. I'm gonna say they them pronouns just for the record.
Okay, got it.
Okay, they call me Tozik, young Tozik. You could call me Aaron, Aaron, and I don't use pronouns.
It's you.
Just me, Jesse.
You.
Covering for Jasmine.
Oh yeah, we're all covering for Jasmine.
So we're all covering in for Jasmine today. This is a special episode. This is post 9/11, post Barcelona trip, post Spain, post Malone.
Did you guys listen to the last episode? Of course
I
didn't.
have not had a chance to listen yet.
So we were talking about if you met a celebrity, who would be the most approachable celebrity?
I'll let you take this.
So who I said, because okay, so there's Jason Momoa, who's hot, right? And then there's the Punisher, who's also hot, but he's more like approachable and he's more like realistic to probably date or hang out with, or yeah. So who would you guys think is an approachable celebrity?
I think I'm gonna go with women since you went with all men. I'm gonna say Sid the Kid is first.
Damn,
Sid the Kid just seems like a really chill person. I've loved her for a very long time.
She does actually seem approachable.
She's so calm and so like, I don't know. She just has a very interesting aura to her that just seems very friendly, but also like very shy.
Mm-hmm.
She just seems like she's very warming. I think I would probably say the second is probably going to be like Angela Bassett. She just seems like she's just with the shits.
Wait, you think you could bone Angela Bassett?
I think that one's a little tougher than Sid.
We were talking about.
Oh, you mean like romantically?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. I don't know.
And I had a hard time. I'm talking loud because the mic's further. I had a hard time trying to list female celebrities that I felt I could walk up to and be like, well, like, what's up? What's good? You want to come
I don't
to
think
Gigi's
for a
up?
second that I would catch Angela Bassett. I think I would honestly love to just shake her hand and say hello to Angela Bassett. I don't think I would want anything romantic with her because that just seems like a really hard catch.
Yeah, I honestly think she'd probably be like, no.
No, she wouldn't even give me the time of day. She would shake my hand and that would be it. She would smile at me. Yeah. I would like that. That probably would be good enough for me.
I'd give. She got booty.
Yo, Angela Bassett is bad, and she just keeps getting badder in her old age, which is.
I think Sid though for sure is
Sid the Kid is really like always on the top of my list. I remember one time in like 2011, she responded to a Tumblr message of mine, and I just about died. I really thought I had a really serious chance with her. She sent me a heart, and I was like, ooh. I got a lot to come back with that heart.
That reminds me of this one time when Doja Cat wanted me to bring her weed.
Oh my god, to play with her toes.
But I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to talk about this story.
She was in the chat rooms.
It was in the chat rooms.
She was showing the toes in the chat room.
I got the Addy and everything on set. Doja, I'm on the way.
You talk so much shit about Doja Cat, so I don't even believe you. You're full of shit. No, I feel like you're just saying that now. But okay, who do you think?
I don't think I would approach any celebrity ever at all for any reason. I don't know. It's on my lips. It's right there.
Anybody
at
all?
I don't think I would approach any celebrity.
Hillary Duff.
No, I wouldn't even recognize her in public, to be honest.
She just seems like a sweet girl.
I don't keep up with other people like that.
Okay, so where are you guys from?
Ooh.
Yeah, let's talk about
that.
Where am I from? Born or where am I from?
Show me your birth
Both.
certificate.
Okay, well, I would say born in East Coast, Pennsylvania, small town, Edinburgh, Pennsylvania.
Where is that?
It's the closest major, or I couldn't even call it major, but the closest city is Erie. So that's like the closest hospital.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That's where the
Um,
But I would
Irish
say
come
I'm from LA.
Luck of the
I'm
Irish.
I'm born in Pennsylvania, raised
When
in
did
LA.
you come over here
I was like
or
When did you come,
move?
when did you
10.
come to America?
to the real America.
When did you gentrify the ghetto?
I came out here, I gotta say, 99. Yeah, because it turned
99.
2000 out here. Oh no, it turned 2001, my first year here.
Okay.
So 2000.
Where'd you move to when you moved to LA?
Yeah, so when I got to LA, straight into the shit, basically, right into the jungle. El Sereno. El Sereno.
Uh-huh.
Right in the hood, 323. And that's where I grew up for the next 10, 15 years. And since then, I'm just, now all over LA. Just LA everywhere.
I am from a even smaller city, the capital of Pennsylvania,
You guys are both
Harrisburg.
from Pennsylvania.
Yep, I'm from the capital. It's about 11 miles long, and nobody knows about it. And it's about
Are your guys' towns close to each other?
no,
Not at all? Okay.
yeah, it's a few hours. So Pennsylvania is actually a really huge state.
Is it don't you guys feel like it's a coincidence that
Yeah,
like you guys are like
yeah.
friends and like,
Well, I think for me, it's really hard to meet like people from smaller towns
Yeah.
out here. Usually, people that I meet out here are really from Philly, but there are certain people that you can meet from like smaller towns that understand like the small townness of living in a big ass state like that. It's
Yeah.
very strange.
That's crazy.
So like, I kind of was drawn to that a little bit, just because like PA people really do get it. I don't know. It's just a different vibe there. Really, it is. It's just a really big state that has like a lot of like really like small country towns and like
Okay.
in cities, and there's like counties, and there's just a bunch of weird hick ass like shit there. And it's a commonwealth, and there's only like 4 states that are commonwealths. I think it's 3 actually.
So you guys feel like maybe you guys have similar understandings of things?
I don't know. Kind of sorta, but I didn't move out here like at a young age.
When did you move out here?
Honestly, I moved out here about 5 years ago.
Why?
My best friend was a model at the time, and she had moved out here, and we always had plans on moving to LA or somewhere like hot. And it just kind of happened on a whim, and I was literally breaking my lease from my like house back home, and I just like came out here with like all the money that I had. It sold everything in my house and just came out. And
How much money did you have?
I think I came out here with like close to like 6 grand, which is not like a shit ton of money, but I made it work, and I came out here with a really like awesome job opportunity. Like I was working at the Waldorf Astoria for a while, and that was pretty rad.
What's
But
that?
also it sucked so bad. Like I'm really glad that I don't work there anymore.
What is that?
The Waldorf Astoria is like a 5-star hotel in Beverly Hills.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Inside of there's a restaurant called the Jean Georges, and there's also some other little things that they do there. But I came out here working for them, really good pay, and it just didn't work out. But I'm really happy.
What made you want to like come along with your friend? Like,
I'm literally from a small ass fucking town. Like,
were you just like? I assume you're like more creative, right? Like,
oh yeah.
were
I
you
mean, I just felt like I was outgrowing my like limits there, and I just didn't want to move to Philly like everybody else, and I just didn't want to stay in Pennsylvania. I kind of really wanted to move, and I really didn't have much to lose. Like I had a good career, good resume. I was building myself. I had money. I had a house. Like I just was literally just I had all this money and nothing to spend it on, so I was just like fuck it. My parents really encouraged me too. That really did help me. So, yeah, I just decided within like we talked about it for like a couple weeks, and then like within maybe like 3 weeks, I booked the one-way ticket.
Oh shit.
And I just came
That's
out here.
crazy.
I literally had a conversation with my dad. I was sitting in my dad's house, in my bedroom in my dad's house, and I was like, should I buy this ticket to California? He was like, to do what? And I was like, to live. And he's like,
Dude, what?
yeah, get the fuck out of here. Just do it. And I'm like, you know what? He's always been the person that kind of, I'm always like, I'm going to make my dad this or like make him proud or something. So I was just like, you know what? He's just like, fuck it, go. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to go. And here I am.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yep. I had a month to pack and to sell all the shit in my house. I stayed with my dad for a month, and within not even 30 days, I was out here.
Did you leave a lot of people behind, or?
Honestly, I'm out here literally just with my best friend. So everyone has been back home. Yeah.
Do you miss being back there, or?
I don't miss being back home. I do miss the people there because, like, it is, like I said, it's very small townish, and, like, people don't really know how to leave that. They get very content
Yeah.
there. So, like, I go back home, and it's been 5 years, and shit is still exactly the same.
Yeah.
My mom and my dad live 5 minutes away from each other. Everybody lives within 15 minutes of each other. There's not much really. Like, I enjoy visiting because it's a nice reset. Yeah, it's like you really should. I feel like everyone should have the ambition to leave like small towns.
Yeah.
Like, love it, visit it, appreciate it, but leave it.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah, there's like it holds you back from so much.
Yeah, I bet.
You're just in a cycle forever there.
Do you see yourself staying in LA, or do you think you're gonna venture out?
I have a feeling that I'll probably move to another state eventually. Like, eventually. Just because I really like I don't have any kids or anything.
Yeah, there's
Like,
nothing holding you back.
yeah, and I really do enjoy traveling. I would really enjoy like doing a split residency as well, like having some time in PA or somewhere else. Like, yeah, I don't know exactly where. Somewhere for sure hot. Hot as fuck.
And then so Aaron, you moved here when you were how old?
Like 10.
10?
Yeah, 10, 11.
So you don't
my-
really
My
have like
parents brought me out here. Definitely a little different.
yeah, like you
Mhm.
didn't have the choice to like
Right.
stay or leave if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's true. Really didn't have a choice.
Do you
But
miss anything about
I'm definitely like grateful that my parents decided to bring me out here because
Yeah.
it's like just unlimited opportunity. Like she said, you get stuck in a loop in those small towns.
yeah, I
And
bet.
like I trip out. I was just back there last year and visiting my dad's friends who still live there. And
This question would both apply to both of you guys. Have you guys ever like pictured or wondered like what you would be like if you did stay there?
oh my god,
Oh,
all the
all the
time,
time.
all the fucking
It's
time.
It's all I think about most of the time.
And
And
I
what
don't
is
think
what
it
does
would-
that look like?
I don't think it would be good, to be honest.
What do you describe that? What does that look like?
I would probably be like some coal miner, some like outdoorsy redneck hillbilly type out
Yeah.
fishing and four wheeling with my cousins.
Yeah, you'd be racist.
Trump?
You'd be voting
You have a
Trump.
white girl.
He'd be hard R'ing and voting for
Oh,
Trump for
man.
sure. And
Let's
this
just
guy-
hope that reality is not one on a parallel.
That's,
universe.
that's in the multiverse.
Yeah,
So that one's
true.
not in
What about you, Q?
Yeah. Describe what do you or how could you see yourself if you stayed?
Honestly, I really sometimes I think about it all the time, but I don't want to think about it. I don't know. I probably still would be cooking and probably doing very well in that, but I'd probably be living, I would say, probably in my parents' like dream, just so I could probably succeed to get out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that I put a lot of time in my early 20s and in my teens and like really built myself there through a lot of avenues that when I go back, I know when I have so many ins and, you know, a lot of my jobs were from people poaching me from other jobs because of word of mouth.
Yeah.
So I just, there's not a lot of opportunity there. There is and there isn't. There's limits to growth.
Yeah,
I would say that. That's a really
for
good
sure.
way to say that. I probably would have settled in another house with my mom and probably lived in like the basement or the attic or something
Yeah.
to help out like more with my family. Um, Sometimes I feel like I'm not missing anything, and then sometimes I feel like I am missing stuff, especially with my siblings, like milestones and stuff like that. Like
Right.
that shit's really important to me, but I don't think that I'm missing anything other than that.
For
Yeah.
you, and I guess this would actually only apply to you, but do you ever feel or have you ever had the thought of being selfish for being out here?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All the time.
I bet. But
Um,
like, I guess you have to draw a line, right? Like you have to put yourself first
yeah.
ultimately. So like, how how does what's that thought process like?
Um, just the way that I was raised. I've always been like pushed to be my own person and to choose things for myself, and it was never viewed as like a selfish thing. Sometimes when I think of selfish, I really put like a negative connotation behind it, but as I'm learning like more about myself and like being more alive and more present and having more pleasure in life, like it is okay to be selfish and think only about yourself in a moment,
Yeah,
because what is that benefiting you in the future? Even though you're being present, like how is that benefiting you?
yeah,
And you know, my parents fully encouraged my move, which was great. My siblings fully encouraged my move, but it does suck that I miss out on a lot.
yeah,
But I I think that like being selfish in a way where it comes out as something very fulfilling for you
yeah.
isn't some is you're not being selfish.
Yeah, and that's what I meant to like
Yeah.
rephrase as well because that's the way like a lot of people with different cultures would define it.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, it's not necessarily being selfish. It's that's just like an easier term. Because in a way, like you can say like you're doing better things for yourself to eventually maybe help your family or like
Yeah.
you know create more opportunities for people you love in your life.
Mhm.
Um, so in that kind of like context, I don't think that's selfish, right?
Mhm.
Um,
I feel selfish in a way where I don't visit often. Like I don't have that time to constantly get on a plane and travel across the country to go see or be a part of every event or funeral or anything like that. I'm selfish because I'm choosing to be here in my own world that I've created for myself
yeah,
versus going back and, you know, putting myself back in that family vibe for a while. But I've noticed even with my visits, like my selfish feeling comes from like not wanting to leave them too soon. So when I visit for like 2 weeks, like 10 days, something like
yeah,
that, because like it takes me a day to travel there, but also I feel like my time is so thin with everyone and
yeah,
everyone wants a piece of it.
yeah,
So that's where I'm kind of like, you know what, I'll stay for a while because I know it's going to hurt me to leave anyway, regardless if I'm there for a week, 2 weeks, a month. So I try to like balance it out that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Aaron, do you have family back over there?
Yeah, I mean, I have family. We're all scattered across the country now. Like we all just bridged out from Pennsylvania. So there are still some left there. And I guess like Q said as well, just kind of like feeling selfish or guilty of not being able to visit all the time is definitely something that has hit me more like in my 30s, my late 20s,
Hmm.
because I'm like, now I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I do have time for that. I do have money for that. Like, I should be doing this. I should be visiting these people.
That you feel you can invest more time into
Just
like making time for family now.
right, right.
Now that you've like put yourself in a position to survive like at least at some level of comfort, right?
Yeah, for a long time it was just the worry of like, damn, am I gonna be able to get time off work? Am I gonna be able to get
Yeah.
back there? Am I gonna have money for it? Like
Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. I think that's a very interesting thing, which I was telling her about is interesting about you. and my personal friendship with you, with Aaron, I've always admired that you're very like self-reliant. And Quees saying you came out here when you were about like 25, right? Yeah, and you came out as a child.
Mm.
Um, and so with you getting here as a child and then growing up here in your teenage years, um, so like Q, you had to come here and then figure out a way to like build a new life for yourself, right? And you were able to do that like on, like on the work that you had already put in as an adult back home, right? Like building a career and a path for yourself. Um, and something I think that's really interesting about Aaron is that if you want to talk about it, like at a young age, you kind of had to like really care for yourself. And
Mm.
as long as I've known him, he's always had to like, he's never really had help from people. So I've always thought that was really like admirable. And it's interesting to me, like how did that, how are you able to get to where you're at now, You're like going to be like 33?
Yeah, about to be 33.
Yeah,
I mean,
so like
yeah.
you're almost on the way out.
Damn, the
We're
blow.
about to retire you.
I say, I don't know. I mean, I'm an only child.
Yeah.
So being an only child, I definitely like at a young age, I've like had to learn to be self-reliant. For
Yeah.
Sure. And I'm used to spending a lot of time alone, and I think it took me a while, but I've grown comfort in that. Like I
Yeah.
have a lot of comfort being by myself. I spend most of my time by myself. Like
Yeah.
90% plus. And that's how I focus. That's how I get things done. And
Would you say that because you've been forced to be alone, like that's how you learned how to kind of cope as an adult?
cope. What do you mean?
Like cope as in like that's now your preference of like you prefer to be by yourself sometimes when you have to deal with something difficult or like you have to like reevaluate things.
Definitely at times it's I feel like it's good to have that background because I see some people they really like cannot stand to be in their own company for
Yeah,
5
exactly.
minutes, and I definitely don't have an issue with being by myself for days at a time.
Yeah.
Like so there's pluses and minuses to that.
Yeah.
I think like becoming more social is something that took me a little longer. Like making new friends out here was difficult at a young age. I moved to like an all Latino community. Being the only white kid around was like from small town to LA too was major culture shock. So it was like it was difficult in the beginning, but it got a lot easier over time.
So you're okay. So we were talking about how Q came over here as an adult, um, and how she already kind of had an idea of like what she could do in terms of like job and career and things like that. Um, so like, how was adulthood for you moving here with all the possibilities and the situations that you were in, like in terms of like living and family and things like that?
Yeah, definitely very different.
How did you survive? Like, because
So
obviously, for those who don't know, you started your adulthood kind of early, right?
I guess so. I guess compared to a lot of my friends,
Yeah,
I
like your
did at
peers.
least anyways. So yeah, my peers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this is how white people do it. 18, 19, they don't give a fuck what your situation is, what you got going on. It's time to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, my parents at 18, they were like, "You gotta go." We had a weird living situation where we all stayed together. My parents were separated but lived together. And then so once I turned 18, they were like, "All right, we're going this way, we're going that way. Which way you going?" So I did kind of have options.
Yeah.
I decided to stay in California because this is where this is where I felt like I want to build my life. I want to build my circle here. And I feel like there's the most opportunity here. So I feel like leaving anywhere right now at this stage in my life would just be like detrimental to myself. Just wasting opportunity. So that's why I wanted to stay here for sure. Just infinite opportunity here. And that's something I take from growing up in a small town. It's like, yeah, I feel like you don't go there till you're fully ready to just settle down and chill.
Mhm.
And there's good parts of, like, I have great memories of my childhood, and like I'm thankful that I grew up in a small town like that compared to a big city.
What did you? I mean, were there any similarities to El Sereno?
Of
And
back
this
home, oh
not at
no,
all.
not at all. El Sereno is a small city
Yeah,
within a huge city,
yeah.
and even that is 10
Hell
times
no.
10 times my hometown. Like my hometown population of 6,000 people. That's the population of my high school here in Los Angeles. So I saw my whole hometown on a daily basis for 4 years.
What? Okay, so El Sereno is predominantly a Latino community.
Right.
Were there any Latinos that you remember?
So this is a funny story. I had never seen a Latino or a Mexican person in my life till I came to California.
Not in his part
So
of Pennsylvania.
kids
For
are teasing me.
you-
They're like, "Fucking white boy this, white boy that," and I'm like, "What are you guys?"
White boy.
They're like, "We're Mexicans." I'm like, "What the fuck is a Mexican?" There was, I remember we had 2 black kids in my hometown, and I was homies with both of them. But that was as much color as we had in our town.
Damn, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
Oh my
it was
God.
all white and very little black.
Do you think Latinos have taught you anything?
Oh my god, so much.
Both of you, actually. Like,
I'm fully like indoctrinated. I am basically Latino now. Like I've been adopted by several families. They see me, "Ay, mijo, so skinny. Mijo, come in, please eat. We love you." I love Latino people though. Like the strength in the families is like second to none.
Very beautiful.
Like most of my friends still live at home. They're 30, 33 years old, just living the good life.
Oh, dead
And
ass.
I tell them from my experience, "Hey man, don't fucking leave. You do
Seriously.
not want to leave.
Stay.
It ain't nice out here." Yeah, you see me running around because I got freedom, quote unquote, but this is survival.
yeah.
Me running around like this is survival. It's not living the sweet sweet life.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of Latinos in LA. I feel like, well, okay, so here's when I was younger, I always thought everybody was Latino.
So cute.
I always thought everyone was Mexican. I was like in second grade and I'm just like, yeah, everyone's Mexican. And then I realized that not everyone's Mexican. Did you guys, I mean, obviously that's going to look different, but there's a lot of Latinos in Los Angeles, so naturally when I was going to elementary school, there actually was a lot of Mexicans that I was amongst. So like, did you guys have any similar experiences or thoughts or like
So Aaron's more like, where were you at? Like northern, like
Northwest, yeah.
like he's like
Close to
up
New
in the
York.
very up in the northern areas. That's very predominantly white. There's a lot of
Okay.
hick people there. I'm in South Central Pennsylvania, so there's a lot of black people. There's a lot
Yeah.
of Dominicans. There's a lot of Guatemalans and Puerto Ricans. So like the range of colors of Latinos and Hispanics there is from fair skinned to albino to like darker than me, kinkier, coiler hair than me. So I've always been around. Like I've had friends. A lot of my best friends were Puerto Rican. Um, a lot of my friends in school had ethnic names like rolling your R's. Like Gotti
Yeah.
was Gari. Like so it wasn't anything abnormal to me. I honestly will say that Pennsylvania doesn't really have a very big population of Mexican people or like I would say Central American. It's very what are those Caribbean islands? Like it's more like Dominicans and Puerto
Dominican.
Ricans. Yeah, a lot of Afro Latinas there, and even the dialect is broken.
right?
And yeah, but it's definitely a culture shock kind of being out here. I see something I've never seen in my life every day in LA. That is the best way to describe it. Like, my first couple of months of living here, I swear to God, I would be like at a red light for like 5 extra seconds, just looking around, like, what the fuck is going on?
It's true.
It's crazy. I will say that, like Aaron said, the sense of family within the Latino community out here is fucking beautiful. Like, I've never seen anything like it. And I've been around a lot of other Latinos on the East Coast, but there's really nothing like the sense of family. Like, they really do kick everybody out. They want you out of their house, like, fend for yourself. I've kind of always been on my own too. I was an only child until I was 12.
Okay.
Yeah. So same thing. Waking myself up for school, walking myself to school. My grandparents would help out a lot, but like, and then in high school I went to boarding school, and it was kind of like on your own as well, but like you're being dictated by a ton of other people. Um, yeah, and then
So you guys are kind of both in a way like pretty. You guys were kind of raised to be more like self-sufficient.
absolutely.
Yeah.
My grandfather raised me like a man. He always told me, you don't need anybody in this life besides the thing in your skull. And that's just how I was raised.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot of things, and I really appreciate that. He was a carpenter. He helped build half of the city.
He was Jesus.
I know. I was about to say,
Yeah.
yeah, Jesus was a
Jesus your
carpenter.
grandfather?
Yes, he was. He was a big, tall, black man.
So kind of like changing it up a little bit. Have you guys come across moments of being here where you felt like you had to reevaluate your path?
Absolutely. All the time. Right now. I'm doing it right now. Currently.
Explain.
In the moment. I just stopped my career back in August of being a chef, which I was doing that for 11 years. Perfecting, teaching, learning that craft. And I just decided that now I just want to focus on more creative things that really fulfill me in a different way. And I just would like to build off of that, but I'm also trying to break a lot of boundaries of fear within myself, which I think is also a thing that you have to learn as well. That's a career in its own, I feel like.
What inspired that like desire to change your career path and to invest more time into expressing yourself creatively? Although I would argue that cooking is definitely
It
a
is
form of
very
creativity,
creative.
but I do understand from my own personal experience working in kitchens before, it's very limiting if you're not like a business owner.
Thank you. And that's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. I don't want to own a business, and I really discovered that on a macro dose of shrooms.
Yeah.
It really kind of opened my mind up to really just understanding and being okay and grieving the fact that like success doesn't necessarily mean owning a business for me. And I had to get over the pressure of really like putting that shit on myself. Like, I have to like, there's an ending to this. What is the ending? Like, do you want a food truck? Do you want a restaurant? Do you want this? Like, and it just was overwhelming to me to a point where I just was like, I really just like, I enjoy putting shit out. I enjoy having good ideas. I enjoy making menus. I enjoy doing all the other the back end things,
like the creative parts of it.
yeah, and I really have no fucking desire to own a business. I don't want to be stressed out that way. And like, it took me a while to not think that that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
It took me a really long time to understand that. And I feel like as I'm discovering myself and just like giving myself the freedom to have ideas that affect my actual life and not just like, oh, that's an idea and let it pass. I think I just really need to start like jumping a different gun and putting the same kind of effort that I'm putting into with my cooking and culinary. And I will never forget what a chef told me. He's like, when are you going to want to stop learning and when are you going to want to start teaching? And I feel like teaching myself things is what's guiding me to do more creative things. Like, it's all kind of like steps.
Yeah, like it's brick by brick. It all
Yeah.
kind of comes back to the same concept which tied you to cooking in the first place, right? Like
It felt like home.
Yeah, like you want to be creating something and showing people how you can create it. You don't want to be doing expo and kitchen manager and doing all this bullshit
Exactly, yeah.
and worried about bills in a ledger that you have to take care of.
Like, yeah, I'm good at it, but like, is that really fulfilling me right now? Is that really like pleasing me? Is that making me feel like as alive as like I feel doing the opposite thing that I could be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I'm in my man cave, like creating for hours, am I getting the same type of fulfillment and pleasure as I am doing this creative
Mm-hmm.
thing that doesn't feel like a job to me, but is a job? And as that was starting to dwindle, I think that's when I really realized like I have to figure out what I'm doing. And I gave myself like a little limit. Like after year 10, figure out what you want to do. Then COVID hit and I kind of was like, ugh. And that's when I really was like,
Forced to reevaluate, right?
yep. But I
Yeah.
really, really kind of came to me in November that I just was like, I think this is the end of this chapter for me, which is not bad.
Yeah.
But now I need to like really kind of teach myself how to be more ambitious and more rambunctious with this thing that I really want to put out to the world for myself.
What is this thing that you want to put out?
I just want to really do like more creative workshops. I would like to do more like workshops that talk more about like inner child work
Mm-hmm.
and making that less traumatizing to process
Mm-hmm.
your trauma. Like that's one of the things that I've been working on for I would say probably 2 years now. I love doing a lot of things like that. I've done one workshop on that so far.
Mm-hmm.
That was very fulfilling for me. So I've been really working on perfecting that craft of like speaking to people.
So in terms of like inner child work, so there's I know that there's a lot of ways to approach that work, and it can be as a psychologist, it could be as a therapist, it could be as group therapy, it could be as an artist. And Alexis, for instance, like she went in school for sociology and psychology, and so she's going back to school to try to also kind of do similar work with people, primarily
That's
with like
awesome.
with women, right? But we've both discussed before, like I don't have a degree in psychology or sociology,
Yeah,
but
neither
as
do
an
I.
artist,
Mhm.
I do find that a lot of the work I've done, especially like in terms of music and art, it is a a way of like serving your inner child and helping
Exactly.
others,
Yeah.
right? So like how do you have like a plan for like in what capacity you want to be doing that? Like,
Ex-
do you want to be running like some sort of facility? Do you want to be running workshops? Like, what is like your main goal for how you want to like provide those resources for people?
So to piggyback on what you said, I really do believe that a lot of inner child workshop, and I also don't have a degree on this, is really just from my own artistic take and what it's given to me over the past couple of years. It's really just immersing yourself in the art. I love to do a lot of stuff with my hands. I like to build a lot of things. I love to bring something that was once destroyed and bring it back to life. It's really all about the process of it
Hmm.
and the release that you get from, having this piece that once was and then building it to something else. I think that's it
Like
kind of
what type of piece?
like say furniture. Like you find
Yeah.
something on the side of the road and it's like shabby, but you kind of like need like a stand or something. You're like, I'll go home and I'll fix it up. You like sand it up, spend hours doing that. You like finish it, paint it, all that stuff. Like it still was that shabby ass thing that you found on the side of the road, but at the
Hmm.
end of it, it's like this new form. Like it's taken a new form that you're able to showcase it off and put it in your house. Like
So I I like what you're saying. So you're saying that like through like actual practical means you're allowing yourself and inviting others to be able to partake in a process that is like akin to being a child,
mhm.
going back to the basics, like the
Yep.
foundational things, right? Like
Yep.
you're taking something like a piece of furniture or something and really breaking down like what that process is down to like, okay, I'm using my hands like the way a child puts blocks together and puts pieces and puzzles together to like really become one with themselves, right? Is that kind of like
That and also the fact that I think a lot of people within inner child work, the main thing is like remembering that you are still your like 5-year-old self. You still are that 2-year-old mess. You still are that 10-year-old geeky person. Like,
Yeah.
you still are those things, but now you literally are this primed person that you are able to showcase to the world. You have this
Mhm.
personality. You have these things that you're willing to build off of. You have these things that, personify you, but you're still these things that you once were. Like, even if you're not thinking about the past, like, baby you is still inside of there, and like you still
Mhm.
need to nurture that, and you still
Yeah.
need to like refurbish that.
Yeah, and
Like,
serve that self, right?
exactly, but you're still this new shabby thing, but those parts of you are still inside of you, and that's awesome. That's really what that main thing
Mhm.
for me is. Like, that's where it all like culminates, like inside of there.
So in a way, it's almost like the being stuck in like the rigidity of like the cooking world and the culinary field um has really brought you back to like to the essence of what it means to be creative, right? So like like they say like children are creativity, right? Like
Yeah, they are.
unbound.
Mhm.
Like all they are is little gods in a way. Like they're just want to create and make messes and like discover and learn things, right? Um so that's like a huge reevaluation of like where you want to go in life after moving into you were like you're moving away from something that at least has like a lot of like although it could be open ended in a sense, there is a lot of pre-established paths for how you could succeed in that field.
Mhm.
Whereas here you kind of have to really establish your own like route to success there, right?
Yeah. I think it just gives people also the opportunity to, like, what I want to do with this type of immersion of like art and creativity. I really want
Mhm.
people to like understand that, like, once you're adding to this little person inside of you, it's still a good thing. And it doesn't have to be like you're fixing this broken part of yourself. Like, you could just be adding a flower to the shelf that's maybe a little crooked. Like, just get a heavier vase or something.
Mhm.
Like, it's little things like that that it's just like boundless. It's
Mhm.
like, how do you want to form this new layer of yourself?
Interesting. So that's actually a good segue for Aaron. So he's talking about new layers of self. How have you dealt with reevaluation like in your adulthood? Like what situations have you come across to get to where you're at now and where you want to go?
Yeah, definitely. Many, many times. So, like, right off the bat, as soon as I became an adult, parents were like, you gotta go. You gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
So, at the time I was going to school and playing sports, had to stop playing sports, had to stop working.
Mhm.
And at the time, sports was like, that was my life. That was
Yeah.
my dream. That was the goal. That
It's
sports was
everything.
everything.
Yeah.
And that was all I had ever done. So, sports is out the window. Now I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck do I do, dude? Like, this is weird. I have to
Yeah.
work now. So, start working for a few years. Obviously, instantly don't fucking like it.
Yeah.
Working fucking sucks. Um, Worked for a handful of years, decided to go back to school, tried it out a couple times, and then finally I went back to play sports again on my
Mhm.
own. I was like 23 at the time. Decided to go back and give it one last go.
Yeah.
I played a couple of years, and then I had a traumatic injury that just abruptly ended my sports career.
Yeah.
So I was happy with myself in the sense that on my own terms, I was able to go back and give it a shot, and it didn't work out.
Tell
So
us
I,
about the injury.
so like I had to go through that again. So yeah, I was in a pretty traumatic motorcycle accident. I fell in the Los Angeles Crest in the canyons. I got hit by a rock slide.
Oh
So
shit.
super unlucky. And it was like one of those days, like I had been up there hundreds of times
Yeah.
and like hauling ass.
Mhm.
And I had two friends with me who were
What kind of
first.
bike were you on?
That was my Suzuki SV650 that I had built myself. I was so
Damn.
fucking sad. I built that in trade school at LA Trade Tech.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then so I had two first timers there, so I was really like taking it easy and cruising that day, and
Hmm.
shit just happened. I crashed. It wasn't super bad, but I did break my leg pretty bad. So like
Yeah.
instantly I knew like my sports career is over.
It's done.
Like I knew it before I was even in the hospital. Like
Yeah.
my sports career is over today. So that took a long time for me to process and get over, because
Yeah.
now at this time I'm 25 and I'm like, I've been playing sports since I was 5.
Yeah, and that was
and,
everything.
and like the injury was so bad that there is no bouncing back from it. I'll never be competitive like
Again.
that at that level ever again.
Yeah.
So that few years from like 25 to like 28, I was really in like a super depressed state, just a limbo, just bouncing jobs, and my attitude was not great about life in general.
Yeah, like it made you a little
Work or
bitter, huh?
anything. Definitely. And but at the same time I knew there was like no one to blame. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was all on me.
Like what could you do about it, right?
And I think that's the time where we started making a lot of music. You taught me, how to use Ableton,
Yeah.
and that was like a great outlet for me at the
Yeah.
time. And we obviously started taking a lot of mushrooms, and
Yeah.
that helped with my grieving process
I-
a lot. Like,
I would definitely say that because I've known Aaron for God since I was like 19, 18 years old, and I met you through
at least
David.
10 years now.
At least over 10 years. I've known
Yeah.
you since I was a teenager, and most interactions were like in passing because of mutual friends, and eventually we started hanging out more because of David, and it went from like, oh, like Aaron's pulling up on his bike like with his duffel bag and we're gonna smoke weed. And like
Lots of weed.
lots of weed. And it went from like, damn, like who is this dude? Like I feel like he doesn't fucking like me. To like, oh, like he's dapped me up and like, oh, he's the homie now. And it's crazy because like I would definitely say that now, like you're probably one of my best friends, dude. Like you are. Oh, you definitely are like one of my best friends. But it's crazy because like the way I've watched you transform in the past decade is like when I met you, you were this like you were playing football, you hadn't had your accident yet, and you were just like I remember like
Ego
seeing you
through the roof.
Yeah, like I remember seeing him and he was just like a fucking just like a meatball. Like this fool was like ready to go play on the fucking field all the time, and like he was excited to be working out with like division athletes, and then the next minute he's not doing that. And I remember thinking like, damn, like Aaron was like not approachable as a person. But over the past like 5 years, I've watched you go from being this person to like this more like open-minded and like vulnerable person with not only your friends but just like the world around you. Like I've watched you move from something practical like sports into like trying to become a musician and making music and like becoming a musical artist, with your friends, but you still did a lot of that on your own and made it happen. When I knew people who had been making music their whole life who didn't even believe in themselves to record a song, let alone record 3 or 4 albums with with
Right.
people.
Really hard.
Yeah, but you did that. You mentioned mushrooms. Do you want to talk a little bit about like how that's kind of changed your trajectory, like where you're heading now?
It's crazy the way that, like, it might sound like cliche or corny, but like a lot of mushroom growers that I've met, our stories are so similar, and we all say like, I didn't find mushrooms, mushrooms found me. And definitely changed my life like very fast. And it's just all about the perspective and the perception of things that we're going through. It wasn't the mushroom necessarily that did anything so special, but just through taking them during my grieving process, it finally just helped me with like acceptance. Like Q said too, like this chapter of my life is over now. And that's fine. And I'm totally happy I went through it. And I'm going to take everything that I learned in that chapter and apply it to the next one. And the next one's going to be so much better. That's what mushrooms has done for me. Just acceptance, and also like just keeping that ambition to look towards the future in a hopeful manner. Because, yeah, for like those few years after my accident, there was like, it was a dark time. in my mind, like life wasn't that bad. I was still okay, but in my mind it was like what like life is looking real close to over.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about because that's very like those two pivotal moments for the two of you happen to involve psychedelics, right? You decided you wanted to completely change your career and how you wanted to invest your creative energy, and you decided that you wanted to move away from how you were investing physical energy. And I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the mycology work you do,
Right,
but
yeah.
in a way,
So
it's similar. It is kind of like what Marquise is saying. Like she wants to invest her creativity into something.
definitely. And so yeah, so saying that, like I played sports for so long, and it was like almost just consumed me. I guess I was real obsessive with it. So like I held a lot of other aspects of my life back. So at the same time where it was like extremely devastating and traumatic, it was also like this huge weight off my shoulders. It was like, damn, I don't gotta wake up and go to 6 a.m. workout tomorrow. Whew, kinda happy about that. I don't gotta go to practice from 4 to 8 p.m. Like that's a lot of time. What am I gonna do with myself? So as I got more into eating mushrooms, I've always had like a green thumb and just a passion for growing things in general, from vegetables to weed to you name it. So I was like, I want to learn how to grow these. So I kind of just delved into that while we were working at Ata, and once I figured it out, I was like, man, I don't know, like I want to ride this journey out a little longer. So just fully dived into mycology work and just fell in love with it. What started as a hobby became a passion, and it's I don't know what to call it right now. Work, or like I wouldn't say I'm on such a large scale that it's considered like a business, but it is enough to get me by and to keep me happy.
I think that
And
that's
it's
a
self-sustaining as well. So that's always been a goal of mine too. Like I want to be a self-sustaining person.
Would you say that starting this business has anything to do with trying to like help other people in any way?
So that's a great question. So starting off, it was a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously I started giving mushrooms to my friends to get feedback, as well as trying them myself. But you can only try so many yourself.
Right.
So
They're all great.
I'm giving them out to friends. People are making donations, whatnot. That was the real turning point for me. Like I did a lot of work in the cannabis industry, and it was very just extremely toxic. So I got over that fast. I still love weed. I love cannabis, but as far as working in the industry, absolutely not. It's a terrible industry. And it's sad to say that mycology will probably be there soon, just with the way things are going with the
Wait,
laws.
explain that a little more.
Just the way I feel about the legalization of drugs. Like everybody thought the legalization of cannabis was going to be this great thing, and I don't think it is, because it excludes the legacy growers. And what I mean by legacy growers is like people who have been growing for
Right.
30, 40 years. Like they're not included in all the beneficial law changes. They're
Yeah.
in fact they're blacklisted,
Mm-hmm.
So if mycology of psilocybin mushrooms will most likely follow the footsteps laid out by cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
just because that's how the DEA and the federal government, I feel, are going to run
Right.
Schedule 1 drugs. They're not going to let us fully have it in the way that we want it.
Right.
Um,
would you say would would you say that your passion for mycology at this point has like transcended only like psychedelics? Like I know like you spend a lot of time like listening to like Paul Stamets and like indulging in like literature and information about the field that has nothing to do with the psychedelic consumption,
mhm.
and just like with the actual study and like the science of of mycology and how it behaves, in nature and things like that.
Yeah, so I guess yeah, the hobby that turned to the passion, and like you said, helping people. So by giving these mushrooms to people, I'm starting to get responses that are like, "Hey man, I'm so grateful. Like this is changing my life. Like you don't understand what kind of impact this is having on my life."
Right.
And I'm just kind of like, "Oh, well, like I don't know. I just grow mushrooms for fun, like I don't know." And then I get another response like that. And then I think the one that really tipped the scale for me was I had this woman. She was a nurse, older than me, probably like mid later 40s, and she took a couple rounds of microdosing regimens that I made for her. And then she had a friend of hers that she had known for 30 plus years, so longer than my whole life. He was so impressed by the change he saw in her over a 2 month span, like not even a long time.
Mm.
He called me to personally thank me. And like we just had a good, maybe, I don't know, 30-40 minute conversation. He was interested in maybe trying some mushrooms too, but mostly the conversation was geared towards like how impressed he was with the change in his friend of 30 years plus. And like he's like, it's night and day. It's night and day. So I think at that moment for me, that's when I was like, damn, like, okay, this isn't just like some recreational drug. I'm not just like, supplying fiends for their
Right,
fix.
right,
Like, I'm helping people heal through some deep shit. Like, and it helped me heal through some deep
right.
shit. So it definitely tipped the scale for me, and I view it a lot differently now.
Okay, so round two.
Is it started?
Round two is started.
Okay.
We are in.
We are in it. We're in round two.
Um,
We're in it.
I feel like the first round we were a little serious. We were just getting to know each other, and now second round a little loose. So
Cuddling each other.
We're in the cuddle vibe right now. We're in cuddle mode.
yeah,
The guttle pole.
With cuddle mode.
The guttle.
guttle,
We're in a polyamorous relationship.
Look up the word guttle.
guttle.
The girls are gonna hug. The boys are gonna kiss.
How do you guys like to show affection? What's your love language? Let's talk about that first.
Our languages are so fun.
Ooh, I like that.
I love
Physical. Very
Like,
physical.
Kobe hugged you.
giving or receiving, because those are both different, I guess.
True.
I feel like,
How do you like to show?
Re-
That would be
Either.
giving.
yeah, so giving, it's probably like quality time, words of affirmation, and like acts of service. It's probably all of them to give.
All of
The five. Or
I don't know.
what are my
She's
love
like, I like
languages?
all the love.
Sagittarius.
I'm a Gemini. You're a Sagittarius?
Yeah.
My best friend's a Sag.
People are
We're
so
both
lucky.
Geminis.
Who, you and Aaron?
I'm
Aaron?
a cusp baby though, so I'm a Taurus Gemini.
Oh shit.
I'm a Scorpio Sag, but I consider myself more Sag.
So is Stormy. What's your moon?
I don't know.
We don't
That's
know that
interesting.
shit.
What's your birthday?
November 22nd.
Oh my God, Stormy's birthday is November 23rd. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
we
know.
get along so well. Honestly, Stormy is really like we call each other our QPPs, queer platonic partner.
That's interesting.
So-
Because your best friend is Sagittarius and you're a Gemini. My mom is a Gemini, my brother's a Gemini, and
Wow.
yeah. I'm just saying, like, I feel like Sagittarius and Geminis are sometimes kind of forced to be with each other in some way.
You're my, what is it called? We are adjacent from each other on the chart, so we actually do mesh the
Yeah.
best.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo.
Like,
I don't know
let's
what that
talk
means.
about me.
I'm a virgin.
Yeah. Lovely. I actually,
You too?
I don't think that I feel like as of late the love language thing has drifted away from me because I feel like it's such a complex thing.
True.
I feel like it really does depend on the person and the situation. But I would say just literally being a genuine charismatic person is my love language to give. And
what does that mean? Like, does that mean like being honest with people? Does that mean like just being yourself, or like?
Well, myself is very, I would say, very genuine, but I love to be very forthtelling. I like to kind of discover people in like a documentary way. Like, I like to ask those weird questions and things that people usually don't talk about openly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm very curious about a lot of things. So curiosity just runs rapid, and I just wind up like asking questions or just trying to see what they prefer, how they like things. And I feel like that's really important to kind of check in with the other on what they would like to experience in this thing. It's something important.
World? Or like...
Well, what do you
mean?
Like, what you have to offer to give them, you know? Like, what do they want
like in the
out
exchange,
of it?
right?
Yeah, like, what are they getting out of the exchange?
Okay.
And I would say, to piggyback on before, just to move with intention. Just being very intentional about, like, how I treat someone and not just
So those are qualities that you like to show people.
Yeah, I would say that's like
in the way you express and exchange
love
that energy
to another person. Yeah, I would say that's the giving side.
and all the, because obviously when we say love language, we don't only mean
those five.
In like the, you know, like what is like the traditional understanding what love is, but in terms of like how you express and want to receive affection, vulnerability, and like energy from someone, right?
That's really funny that you bring that up, because I'm actually doing a course literally on kind of something like that, to kind of like give myself a little bit more aid in understanding and identifying those things. I don't know.
Should we come back to that? Should we ask Aaron?
Yeah, why don't you ask Aaron about
Think
that?
about
Because
it.
I have a more complex like way of, I feel like even thinking about that is making my mind go bonkers. So,
Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. This is Aaron's understand. Yeah, like
Get near the mic.
put it on your lips.
I'm getting
Suck on it.
Tip on your lips.
I think I'm pretty similar in some ways, like Marqese said, just like being very genuine, honest, and open about and moving with intention. Like,
Would you say that's you giving
Maybe
love, or would that be how you would like to receive love?
a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But like,
Do you know what the love languages are?
not
Yeah.
necessarily.
maybe
not
we-
necessarily.
If you explain to him what they are,
I don't know that.
I know.
Oh,
that.
I just know my love language, and it's so
she
for
explained
me,
them to me, so I don't know. If
I read it off of Wikipedia.
There's 5 basic
So
ones,
for
but
sure
they
it's true.
are dynamic in what they.
Yeah.
There's more
yeah,
now.
like they intersect.
So like for me, the way I like to receive love is by acts of service, and that doesn't necessarily just mean like sexually. That also means like, I don't know, like if he sees me struggling with something that I need help with, like him helping me complete that whatever
Task,
whatever I'm doing is like how I see him loving me, and that's how I appreciate it. Versus him, he's more of like a physical person, so like me just like hugging him and like touching him or cuddling, like that's how he like enjoys love. So
Yeah.
I don't know the rest of the love languages, so you
it's
want to
words
explain
of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch.
Can you repeat that? The love languages. What are they?
Oh, the love languages are acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, and
gifts.
it's
Gifts?
Gift
yeah,
giving,
Yeah, right?
It's gift giving, but there's a specific way that they put it where it's not just like, I'm giving you a gift. I forget what it's called. I believe it's like showering or something. But there's some other holistic like love languages that I feel like really identify, and for me anyway, like a little bit better of explanation of how I receive love. because I would say that I receive love, and I like to all 5 ways, all of them. I like physical touch, acts of service. I love all of those things.
Let's look up really quick because I want to hear, based off what these common ones are. I want to hear what Aaron feels or
Oh yeah, Aaron,
more.
you need to answer. Go ahead. Here, you just gave me the mic
I'm
back.
getting the definitions still.
Okay, so here we go.
Give me
So
the rundown.
okay, so here we go, Aaron. So these are the common ones right here, right? So we have physical touch, acts of service,
Right.
gifts, quality time,
Quality time.
words of affirmation,
Okay.
children and love language, receiving gifts.
So I think for me, going off of that list of things, I try to like,
Which one the first?
as far as giving and receiving, I would say I like to be well-rounded
Yeah.
and balanced as well. I would say like least important on that list for me would be gift giving and receiving. Just because, I mean, gifts are important too.
It
from
doesn't have to
time
be monetary
time.
either.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like in our society we have just way too many holidays that are just stupid as fuck.
Gifts, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Yeah, you're forced to give gifts all
I
year
couldn't
long.
tell
All
you
year
what
long,
a lot of
yeah.
these holidays mean. It's just like
It's bullshit.
I don't partake in majority of them.
Yeah.
I definitely I'm big on physical touch.
Like most men are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just something.
Wait, let's like kind of go into that. Why do you think most men are into physical touch?
I don't think it's just men. I think most people are.
It's just
Women are just as high, if not higher, like on a sexual frequency than most men. You know, like whether they want to be with men or women.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot more women are more fluid in that way, where they could be with men and women.
right.
Where more men are just one or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. When I said it's because most often it's common for men to report that they identify the strong. They identify more with the physical touch aspect of the love languages, and women obviously do too. But it's more common that you hear that as one of the primary forms of love languages for men. So
It's a big important part, but I'm also really big on acts of service, like you said, very little things. Like I needed help with something and you helped me. Like you might not think shit of it, but I'll remember.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
fucking next week when I'm unloading the groceries, you helped me carry a bag, and like I really pay attention to small shit like that, because that shows me like long term. That shows me that you're worth an investment. You know?
Yeah.
Physical touch is important as well, but sometimes it doesn't add up to the rest. I guess I don't know if that's a good way to put it. Like,
so you're saying
I feel like physical touch in like a sexual sort of relationship at all is kind of like standard. It's gonna be part of it, you know.
Yeah.
And it has to be good. It has to be special as well, but the smaller things for me are more important.
And physical touch doesn't only mean sexual.
Yeah.
It means like, for instance, like, like cuddling, hand holding, being close, like like grazing hair and like
I love
brushing
all
of
those
skin, things like that.
Brushing of
The
skin.
rubbing of the toe,
Massaging.
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 Yeah, like I love to like
Sucking of the fingers.
just when she rubs like my hands, like I've been at work all day or something, and she like rubs my hands, and I'm like, oh, and I flip it over, and I'm like, come on, keep
Yeah,
going.
like I'm like a masseuse or something.
Yeah, she's the best.
Yeah, so I mean,
I think physical touch is so just important.
Yeah.
Because like it's an energy exchange. So like hands really do have healing powers.
right.
That's why masseuses are so great, because like they're sacrificing their energy to heal.
Seriously.
For real.
Yeah, well, for me, the reason I was asking initially about like why do you think guys want to be like, or have more I don't know, like they see
I would love
physical
to piggyback on
touch
that.
as a preferred love language? And I'm just curious if that has anything to do, or if you guys have any opinions on it, with the fact that like maybe men weren't like as
Taught to love.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
not taught to be soft.
That's a good point. Yeah, I would say growing up, definitely most boys are
Right.
probably shown and experience much less
Physical
Affectionate.
Affection.
So that
Yeah.
that so like
from
behind
peers,
closed
from adults, and like
Your
a
family.
lot of the, I don't know, maybe day-to-day issues that we face
right.
are definitely brushed off. I feel much more than majority of women, for
Right.
sure. Like, oh, you're having a bad day. Oh, too fucking bad. You still
Right.
gotta go to work.
Just
you
deal
still
with
gotta go
it.
to school. You still gotta go lifting. You still gotta get shit done. Like,
Yeah.
Versus like women, not all women, but like it's
Yeah,
more
not all.
likely where like they'll get hugged more,
Yeah.
they'll get like kissed more, just like touched.
Yeah,
depending,
like
unfortunately, in
imagine
other
a
ways,
dad
but-
that has no sympathy for his daughter's bad day.
Yeah,
You know, like, it doesn't exist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dad's gonna be like, oh my god, but to the son, he'll be like, man, shut the
Like,
So
man up.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm just like
No one gives a
curious.
fuck.
I'm just curious if that might be a thing, or if that's like correlated in any way.
Definitely.
I didn't think about it much, but
It's
I
possible.
can see it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Marquese, I think you want to say something.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that.
Is this on?
Really closer. Yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
Just don't touch it.
Sorry.
I totally agree with that. I think that men are totally like their emotions are so pushed off from a very young age, and that's just how they're brought up. That affectionate side of like, you know, really nurturing that vulnerable side inside of them, or just person inside of them in general, is just kind of like hidden and tucked away to a really safe space. And I feel like a lot of men seek comfort within their partner for that space.
Right.
And I think that's why physical touch comes up as a high point, especially with males, because they feel the most safest, especially when they're in four walls with just their partner and it's just them, to feel the most vulnerable, I'd say. There's more room to try things and explore things and just be like a part of yourself that no outside entity can really kind of shame you for. I feel like there's a lot of shame in being emotional and being soft and feeling your emotions, especially with males and male identifying communities. It's very hard to express that. And I feel like maybe that's a reason why that, you know, that could be a big factor in a lot of men.
Issues with men, actually,
Yeah.
and aggression.
Yeah.
Even.
Yes. And
It's true. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You know, like usually they don't teach boys growing up that you can just like, oh my bad, it's like Aaron was saying, like if you're dealing with like adversity or you're dealing with some stressful situation, they don't like, not only do they not teach boys, but they don't just teach people in society that you can actually you can reach out to boys and men and like hug them and like give them like physical ways to comfort them.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's more like women and girls are like more likely to receive that physical affection
that
and
softness.
and that reassurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so men, when we grow up, when we get into relationships, we tend to like look for,
Sri Lanka.
oh, what the hell, man?
That's for
It's
me.
okay, we could cut this out. So that's mine. My call. Tell him I'm not gonna take it.
Go on.
What we're saying. Oh, so saying, you know, like you were saying, like men in relationships as adults tend to, like we will tend to commit to someone who allows us to express that vulnerability
Yeah.
and to show that side of ourselves, like free of judgment and like to
It feels safe.
and feel safe, and in a way, like you expressed previously, like it serves your inner child, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
men,
They forget that it's still in there, and it's okay to be that soft boy that used to get kisses on the lips from your mom.
Exactly. At least like biological men, that's how we're taught. You know, like we get neglected.
Yeah. But you're also super coddled too, to an extent.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a double standard with men, and I see it daily. And I have a little brother, and I grew up in a household full of men. My grandfather raised me. I had older boy cousins. We would fucking literally wrestle and fight, and then 2 seconds later we would all be crying in the room because like we had to go to bed or some shit. Like it's so crazy how you're like raised to be so rough and so like, you know, hard, and then in the same breath they expect you to like not repress your emotions and not feel some type of way when you're not being coddled like back at home. And I see it a lot also in communities where, you know, men stay at home for a long period of time. Like, yeah, you have a lot of hard shit going on. You can't express a lot, but, you know, you still have that comfort, that fallback, that comfortability of falling back.
What do you mean by that?
I would probably say like the oldest daughter probably can relate to this. Like, you are so, like, everything is so hard for you, especially me. I was the only girl. I was the baby, but for my parents, like, the pressure of, like, doing all this stuff, it kind of felt like a man. Like, it was always, like, do this for yourself. Bills are going to come.
Because you were the oldest.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it kind of, like, was a lot bearing on me, and I felt like I couldn't express or, like, have an emotion about that. And I see that a lot in men, too.
So, in a way, masculinity and the roles of masculinity were projected onto you as an only child because their hopes and ambitions and dreams fall onto the oldest child, right, to perpetuate and like live that out for them.
And it was just like a force of independence. Like, you know, you had to be independent, you had to be this, you had to be that. And then, you know, but my younger brother, he's just turned 18. My mom, like,
babies him.
Yep. Like, she wants him to leave the house, like, 1,000%. She talks about kicking him out all the time, but will she ever? Never. I'm like 1,000% sure that he'll be in the house till he's in his 30s. Like, he doesn't even know how to drive. And that's fine. But, like, I've been on my own since I was 17 years old, and thinking about that and thinking about how he is now, it's just, it baffles me. It does.
I think it's interesting because I think a lot of my culture has to do with me growing up in a similar way where I'm the youngest. It's only me and my brother, but I'm the only girl, and my brother's the oldest son. And in Mexican culture, the men are typically catered to and taken care of a lot. So versus me, even though I'm the baby, I'm still the girl. And a lot of just the independence was like thrown on me. Yeah. And I had to like figure everything out by myself. I had to be the responsible one and doing all these things to get myself out of, I don't know, my mom mostly put that on me, like a lot of that pressure to be independent. Yeah. So, which is how I came to be. Yeah, exactly. But I saw my brother and he got just like, more, he like, you know, it was just more catered to, like he got coddled, he got told it was okay to do all these
bad things,
to fuck up, and like
I think it's because, and this is just like outside looking in, I feel like a lot of older women, our parents, our grandmothers, all those things, I think they've seen what women have dealt with and have had to go through within the last 70, not even 100 years of history, and how tough and resilient women have to be and all the shit that we're going to go through in the real world, that I honestly sometimes understand that rough upbringing, because if I didn't have that, I don't think that I probably would have made it too far in a man's world, quote unquote, especially within my career, which is male dominated. You know, males making, you know, like just the rates and everything like that. Like, I really kind of see how hard it is to be a woman, or it's so hard. We just got voting rights, not just, but like think about it.
Recently,
like we just got all these rights. We're still fighting for equality. Like, it's still a huge leap for every little moment that we take. Like, And I really kind of am super grateful that I had an upbringing that kind of prepared me for the perpetual fucking sadness that we like get all like it's just there.
It's the reality of the world.
Yeah, the
and,
reality
we
is
were
really
prepared for it.
shitty. You know, things happen to us. We're more susceptible to a lot more attacks and assault
like violence in all forms.
Shit like that. Like I think it's actually like I hate the way that we raise our girls sometimes, but I'm very grateful for being raised this way because it would have been hard not to have that type of like knowledge beforehand.
I do have a question about. I know you identify as non-binary, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I see the way I see things. Sometimes I see like energy. Sometimes like in feminine energy and masculine energy, and I feel like as of recent, a lot of women are kind of being forced to kind of take on that masculine energy.
Yeah.
What do you like think about that?
I just really like necessarily I think that once we get past the reins of genderizing ourselves and our like actual beings that we can really like get through a lot of things. I think there's a lot of information that women have for men.
Yeah.
Just as much as men can give women or the opposite more information about certain things to make it to the top. I think if we just put aside the fact what we have in between our legs, or that's really what it is, just like what's in between your legs, and just actually spoke as like humans in this fucked up world that we're all living in together, and just helped each other out, I feel like it would be a little bit better. Like, I think we all have it hard. No gender, like no bias.
Right.
We all have it hard. We're all going through the same thing. We all get sickness just like everybody else. I think it's important to kind of like come together instead of creating more divide.
True.
And I think all the labels and all the identifying, as much as I love to identify myself and know who I am self-wise, it's not super like...
It's not beneficial.
Exactly.
To that. It's not conducive to that unity.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I'm not trying to build a divide, but I'm also still being true to myself, but I'm also trying to, like, let people understand that it doesn't matter what I'm identifying as. Like, am I a good person? Are you a good person? Like, are we doing these things, like, in togetherness well?
I like what you're saying, because you're saying, like, identity is important when it comes to the self.
Yes.
And how you choose to express yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because clearly, biological differences aside, it's important to a person to choose to be who they want to be.
Exactly.
And so...
that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah, and so if we can move past arguing about what that means and why it should matter to someone...
let's talk about the bigger picture.
Yeah, like it's if you can remove that and just accept that people want to be whoever they want to be and choose to be, then it makes it easier to, because that's another divisive element of life removed, right? Just like it's like gender and race are two like the most divisive probably topics in the world right now, at least in Western civilization, right? Like this is what we're always talking about, is like our identity. And we're always talking about our race.
Yeah. And
they're two hot topics because, like you just said...
Yeah.
Obviously, as a man saying this, it sounds stupid, but, you know, it hasn't even been 100 years since women were allowed the right to vote, right?
Yeah.
And...
my grandfather was a part of the civil rights movement, and we had a picture in our dining room of the Million Man March. And if there's one thing in a household that was very progressive, I was literally raised by hippies. They wanted me to be anything and everything I ever wanted to be. But the one thing that I always will remain is a black person.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I'm going to fight for, and just for anything, it's for that. I can be blue, I can be gay, I can be demisexual, I can be all those... the list goes on and on about sexuality, identification, no matter what. But I will always... know who I am, and that's a black person. And
that's how most of the world will see you too.
Is a black person, and that's the one thing that I will always like fight, defend, and be like strong for. Like, I don't really care if you call me a girl. I don't really care if you say she or her when I say they or them. Like, it's not like a gender Nazi, but like I know who I am, and that's important to me. And once you cross that boundary of like disrespecting who I am presenting
like with
to
intention
you,
and purposely.
that's when I defend who I am. Yeah.
I respect that.
He's like, hello.
He's like, I can have an opinion on this. Right.
Okay, so that was really heavy.
Yeah. How do we transition to Aaron with
Transition.
Oh, I can take it back if you want.
No, let's get Aaron on this one.
Aaron's a little.
He's like,
So I don't know how to. I don't
transition.
know how to transition because I still want to talk
Oh,
about
go ahead.
Aaron.
I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you about it.
No, I want to talk to Aaron about it, but
Okay, so let's go back a little bit.
let's rewind.
Rewind a little bit.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot
A
that
lot to
was
unpack.
unpacked there.
Like,
But like
chime in
taking
on.
it back to maybe something that you can relate to, being a man who probably was raised similarly to a lot of other men or boys.
Like traditional,
where,
right?
Yeah, where you can't cry, you can't really like
Sad.
be emotional, you can't be physical when you're down. Like, what's your experience like?
yeah, definitely. Just a lot of suppressed emotions, just across the spectrum. I would say, you know.
Did you ever, when you were little, did you ever question or like, was there ever a moment in your life where you were like, I want to hug somebody or want to cry or like, I want to do these things, but my, I don't know, male father figure, whoever was in your life told you that you couldn't or
Well,
like.
to be honest, no. My dad was a pretty good figure in the way of just like really letting me figure things out and choose for myself. So that I can appreciate, but I felt like around my peers, like my cousins, since I was an only child, I spent so much time alone. But when I'm around my cousins or like other students or even coworkers, definitely there's that like
the machismo.
yeah.
Where do you
tension in the air or something? You know,
where do you
you're
think
like,
you learned it
I
from?
I can't show this right now. I can't let these people see this. Sorry.
Where do you think you learned it from?
I think just from other people and experiences in the world, like
society talks.
yeah,
right?
just seeing a kid break down and cry in class or something, and you know,
and then
seeing
he gets
the kind of
ridiculed.
reaction they get, and it's like it's usually not positive, versus, you know, maybe a girl starts crying in class and everybody's rushing over.
Right.
Like,
True,
to
yeah.
help
oh my
her.
God, are you okay? What's wrong?
Would you say that happened in elementary school?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I would say all throughout grade school, things like that would happen, and even in the workplace, I've seen it. And this doesn't apply to all women. It's definitely not like, but I have seen it more for women than for men.
It's more accepted.
Just in my experience.
I would say an important, like what's important here to distinguish that change is our generation. For instance, like the generation we grew up in, we're in our 30s.
We're so progressive now.
So as adults, we're progressive, but as children, we grew up in a time where those traditional roles and expectations were not only forced upon us, but they were perpetuated by even us at points and by our parents. Like, I know myself personally, like my father was very traditional machismo Mexican man, and he didn't have a father around. So extra reason for him to be like, it lent to that machismo-ness, like you can't cry, you can't be vulnerable, you just gotta man the fuck up and get through it, and there's no complaining, there's no time to stop. So I had a hard time dealing with that as a kid. So as an adult, it's interesting because as an adult, it drives me forward now as a man, but at a time where I needed it as a child, it definitely was like, oh wow, like I see how it was like harmful to boys our age probably growing up, right? Because like as a man, you see like you do actually need to have some of that machismo-ness sometimes. And just like Alexis was saying about feminine masculine energy, like women also have to adopt that same mentality sometimes to persevere. And not to say that feminine energy doesn't persevere, it's just that the ways in which they manifest is so unique, and that masculine energy tends to be that force, that driving force of like just objectiveness. Like, here's an objective, I need to get this done, because if not, survival depends on it.
Right.
Not only that, but the way our world is built it's for men.
Exactly.
So the way women have to succeed is
to be more masculine.
To be more masculine, to fit into that, right? And you see traditional feminine energy, like from what I've observed as a man, is more like the nurturing and the creation, the creator, the energy that like nourishes and builds, and pushes that masculine energy forward. And now I see that we're coming to like a convergence in our world where it's like these two energies are now acceptable to be adopted.
Yeah, I think it's good for each person to have a bit of both, you know. Like, it can't just be all masculine. You can't just be all feminine all the time. It's definitely good for both, you know, genders to learn about both roles.
Yeah.
I
think once you get like an understanding on like what people just in general have to go through to survive, I think then you can understand the other side of things. And that's why like I really identify as non-binary. It's the fact that I really just don't see a point in giving myself the majority of this masculine energy, the majority of this feminine energy, when I live so dual in the both of them all the time.
Like the energy you embody.
Yeah, the duality of both of them together like is me embodied. Like to my friends, they say that I have like, you know, more masculine energy. To partners, it's more feminine energy. So they live very cohesively inside of me together. And I truly just I don't enjoy the connotation of feminine energy being weak and docile and soft and very like, I don't know, it's almost like degrading the way they kind of think of that. Like, oh, you're being a girl. Like, even that saying just sounds so fucking like negative.
Right.
And then, you know, where it's like, be a man, where it's just like, to do what? Not cry, not get a hug? Like, that sounds really shitty too. Like,
I think that I think that's very important to distinguish and define, because like I was saying earlier, like I think it was important to identify like what is masculine and what is feminine. It's not weak or strong. It's this idea of like objective versus the subjective part of life, and bringing those two together and balancing that sometimes. And there's a lot of power in feminine energy and being able to provide life. And not only just in terms of babies, but like in the way that feminine energy cares for life on its own, and being able to embody that. Like you talk about like Aaron's love for mycology, that culture, that cultivation of life is feminine energy being expressed.
Oh my god.
Sorry, Kobe and Gigi are snoring over here. Whereas you know, like Marqese is saying, like it's not a matter of strong versus weak. It's more so learning how to take the strengths of both and use that to build the person you want to become, right?
yeah.
Right.
Because like you're saying, biologically you are who you are, but the person you choose to express yourself with is how you choose to combine those aspects of what you want in yourself and in life, right?
Yeah. even in partners, I feel like it's important to embody both. I feel like it's very important to embody both of those attributes. I think it's extremely important, especially if you're a woman in a relationship with a male. Acts of service, if you're trying to help or cater or, give aid to a man in a man's world, if he's doing something, more strenuous than you're used to, like, that can be a lot. So it's like inserting yourself into his life. But I feel like any hetero relationship is essentially a woman inserting themselves and a man inserting themselves into the other's life. And
a compromise.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I feel like that's where that kind of comes in. I think that's why it's really important for people to kind of have relationships, whether they be short, long, whatever. I think it's really important to just try, because relationships are just intertwining two individuals together. And I think people lose a lot of sight of that. And I think those relationships are like not just like sensual relationships. They are platonic. They are partners. They're best friends. They're your cousins. They're your second cousins that you don't really see too much, but you kind of like hit them up. Like there's that fucking coworker that you just like to hang out with, but you're like, oh, they're just my coworker or whatever. Like relationships are relationships.
I think it comes back to what we were saying earlier about love languages being an exchange of energy and power, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about here, right? With relationships, like it's important to interact with and practice that exchange of power and energy with people, because it's like it's information, right? Like you learn more about yourself and the world when you allow yourself to be vulnerable and to participate in something like that with someone.
Yeah. I don't think, now piggybacking back on the love language thing, I feel like I'm such a complex person that I feel like my love language to receive is probably just like maybe two things. Compassion, because I'm really weird and I'm gonna shoot a lot of weird shit out, and I hope you just have the fucking kickback for that shit. A lot of compassion.
What do you mean by that? Like you say you shoot shit out. Do you mean that like emotionally you have outbursts or?
Oh, not emotionally. Probably just like I'm a very curious being, and I've picked up a lot of things that I'm just interested in or tickled by or something like that. And I really don't think that I'm very quote unquote normal by any means necessary. I have
what is normal, right?
What is normal for sure.
I feel like it's kind of like
there's a thing. I would say that the normal is like the usual. Like what are you usually used
like
to?
Traditional, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think I'm far.
Most people do.
Yeah, like I'm there. I wouldn't say that I'm so far gone, but like I definitely have a different way of thinking about things and then caring about my curiosity in a way that I feel like for some that are used to more vanilla things can be like, what the fuck is that? Okay.
So you need a partner who's able to go with the ebb and flow of your personality, because you're curious about what you invest your energy into. You're not like, I come home, I cook dinner, and I go to sleep, I watch TV. You're like, today I might create something, today I might want to learn something new, today I might want to tie myself up and have you watch me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
Shibari plugging.
Yeah, right. I'm just like,
I do Shibari.
Because I know that's something, I know what she's getting. She's like insinuating things like that, right? Like you're experimental in how you choose to live life and express life. So you can't be with someone who doesn't
accept that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm very experimental and I'm very curious, and sometimes it's not a thing that I want to do all the time. It's just like, I just thought of something funny. You want to just try this right now? Or just like, let's just in the moment just like do it.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Like I'm more fascinated with pushing kind of people's limits that way. And I think that's what kind of builds my bond with others a little bit better.
So you would say someone's ability to step out of their comfort zone with you is a love language for you, because they're risk-taking with you. And that's, although it...
That was my second one,
you do understand though that is also a lot to ask of someone though, right?
And you know what's crazy? I never ask. I ask permission.
Yeah.
I always ask permission or consent, always. But sometimes I don't even necessarily have to. I just have to bring it up in a way where it makes people feel safe. And I would say most times it gets a green light just off of the fact that they are reassured that it's like, it's a safe space. And they're comfortable enough with me to try things. And that right there is love. That's my exchange of love. Like, that's a lot of trust. Yeah. A lot of people don't even trust themselves.
True vulnerability.
It really is. And that's something that you should really appreciate and hold special. And, like, I never just am like, oh, thanks. Like, after something like that. Like, it's always, like, praise and giggles or, you know, there's aftercare in that. Because there was care being put into that. And you should it should be input, output of the same.
Yeah, that should be reciprocal, right?
Of course. And especially if a person's ever done something before or they're trying something out, like, it should be very reassuring for them and, like, a confidence boost that they even tried something new. And I always praise my no's just as much as my yeses.
I can't help but, like, there is a very, like, sexual undertone to the things you're talking about.
There can be, yes.
And it's I don't know if I'm misinformed by what you're saying, but it does sound like a lot of what your love language entails is, like, involved with, like, intimacy and physical, and not just sexuality in terms of just, like, sex, but, like, sexuality and what that encompasses, like,
absolutely,
you know, like the layers of vulnerability involved with sexuality. It sounds like you're very, like, involved and, like, invested into that side of communication with someone.
I think it's very important. I think I would say yes.
When I asked about, you know, when I said, you know, it's a lot to expect someone to go with that ebb and flow with you, you mentioned consent, and consent is usually associated with sex. And I meant, what I was asking was, like, because from what I was under the impression that we were saying is, like, you would hope someone is willing to go along with, like, the decisions you make and the, like, if you have an impulse to create something or to try something new outside of sexuality, just, like, in life.
Oh, definitely.
That you would hope that person is willing to take that risk with you, but I think it is interesting that you move, that this is the energy that you, like, you identify with. I want to ask Aaron about this because I think it's very interesting, because he mentioned something earlier that kind of touches on this. He said that women's level of sexuality is in ways higher than men's. Yeah. And you sound very comfortable with it.
I think they can be intertwined both ways, sexually and just, like, regular life.
Well, I was trying to have him hand it to you because you were...
Oh.
Say that again?
I think they can be intertwined. Like, there are some definitely, like, sexual undertones for sure, but I think that sexuality and just, like, regular living kind of go hand in hand as well. Like, I feel like if you know how to operate with intimacy, then you know how to operate just regular with individuals, and not even in a sexual way, but just learning how to actually, like, cater to the person in front of you.
Like, that informs other forms of
it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual, but you can kind of, like, vibes are a thing, chemistry is a thing, charisma is a thing, and you use those things to sell shit, sell houses, and
sell yourself, right?
Sell yourself, yeah.
Same thing. You wanted to add to that, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, and, like, I think there's a lot of just miscommunication and, like, misconceptions in the sexual realm between men and women of, like, what we want, what we desire, what we like
in our heterosexual relationships, right?
Right.
Whereas it's a lot different to, like a homosexual relationship.
A lot of definitely my gay and bi friends, they definitely just seem a lot more comfortable in the
more
sexual
acceptance.
realm. But I think, like Marqese was saying too, is that it can sometimes translate very well just to life in general. Because, like, a lot. I guess a common thing is like a lot of men are more selfish in the sexual realm, right? They just want to get their,
it's physical.
They want to get theirs real quick.
Yeah.
They don't care if the woman gets theirs or not.
Yeah.
Personally, I've always been like opposite of that. I'm like,
service.
My main goal is
service.
I want to please.
Yeah.
You know, I like to please.
Like
so
you find value.
That's
self-value in
for
that.
Me. I like to please. That's what pleases me.
You're like, I'm also on Tinder. And
I actually don't use like any online dating.
I'm
I've never been into it. But I feel like that also translates well into life, into just relationships in general. Like something so simple as coming home and, you know, seeing the roommates and be like, yo, are you guys hungry? Have you guys eaten? Just a small,
that's very similar.
Just a common level of compassion.
Right.
It's kind of like, did you come?
Yeah. Did you
Did you eat yet?
Did you come? So,
I think to generalize that, it's also like being considerate, being mindful of the people you care about, the people you love.
You know, people who are involved in your daily life.
Yeah.
Like, you should show extra attention and care for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Kobe.
Yeah. He's like, thanks, family.
He's like, yes.
Mom and Dad.
His new family over here. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so we're at 50 minutes. Do you guys have any like last minute things that you want to mention? You can talk about things for 10 minutes. It's up to you guys. Marqese?
Something on your mind?
I think this is a really good topic because love languages are so dynamic and they have so much to do with like how we carry out our everyday lives. And I think people should really think about relationships a little bit differently than just like a sexual relationship.
Right.
I think relationships are so deep, like relationships with yourself, relationships with your parents, relationships with your siblings, like your friends, your inner circle.
Right.
I think all those things are like really important to kind of check in over time. Like I think they're like taste buds. Like every 7 years, just give yourself like a little check in. Like how are you feeling? What do you like? What do you don't like? But I think it's really important for people to explore those yeses and nos like every single day within the community, the sex positive community. There's 2 anecdotes that you should say to yourself. This is also a somatic practice. You have some yes ands and some no buts, and that's how you start your phrases of like discomfort and comfort. It's like, no, I don't, like somebody asks you a question and you're like, no, but you can do this,
like
or I'm cool with that. Yes. It's like a really good practice to teach yourself how to not people please. It's a good thing to like get yourself out of situations that you don't want to be in, or like you feel like you're being forced to do something or be a person that you're not. Like it's not just a sexual thing, but I feel like a lot of these things could be integrated into people's lives.
Yeah,
to help them just respond better to outside forces. Some people get overwhelmed with people and they're just like, yes, like, okay. And they do a bunch of things that they're not really cool with or down with or are aligned with.
That's an excellent point. Like, I get what you're saying. So, like, in such a
it's like an exercise in a way.
It is an exercise. You do it. Yes,
right?
and it's really important. You can do it with partners. You can do it with friends. Like, honestly, my best friend, Stormy, and I, we've been friends for almost 16 years going on, 17 years. And, like, we've been through so many evolutions, so many ego deaths, so many personality changes, new hobbies. Like, we check in with each other all the time. And I think it's really important to just be like, you know, I was cool with this, but I'm not really feeling it this way anymore. Like, I'm feeling it more like this way. We check each other. Like, you said you wouldn't do that thing anymore that you're doing right now. And it's like, I think we should just revisit this or, like, not do this because I'm going to blow up. Like, it's important to kind of, like, check in with people and yourself just so you kind of know how to be a person.
Yeah.
Like accountability.
And keeping
right?
people accountable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Accountability is one of the main things that I feel like we lack as well.
Yeah, as individuals.
As
for
individuals, yes.
It's definitely a muscle that needs to be like exercised.
Exactly.
Accountability.
Sure.
And to just feel more alive and not think so hard about your purpose in life at all. Just feel more alive.
Don't be a tryhard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're all trying way too hard to be just literal, like, little what is it, organisms?
Yeah.
Organisms.
That was a tongue twist.
I
Yeah.
think
Be
right
like
now,
germs.
because social media is so impactful in our lives,
yeah.
it's a thing to be this important person.
Yeah.
Or
like,
at least you think you're being an important person.
Yeah.
And it's just like an image. And I continuously go back to social media in a couple of these episodes because it is impactful, and we're kind of the generation that like experimented with it first.
Yeah.
And we got to experience life without it. And then our other half of our life is with it.
Exactly.
And it's an addiction in some way.
Absolutely.
It's addictive to a lot of people. And
it's a lifestyle.
It is.
It's a lifestyle. Influencing and influencers, like, those things just came about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's a crazy life we live in right now.
Totally. And it's very just about, like, not even who you are. It's more about, like, oh, well, this is what people want to see me as, you know?
Yes. There's so much portrayal and expectation on us as of late that I feel like people are literally losing themselves.
Exactly. I was
more
just
than
about to say
ever. That. There's just so much slipping
loss
through the cracks.
of identity and
self.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, where's your self-trust to, like, think outside the box or be a different individual than your peers at this moment, and not feeling, like, ostracized or, like, you're going to be, like, the outcast or something. Right. Yeah, it's really difficult, and I will honestly say that there's one thing that I teach my siblings, and I've always just led by, is just really just not give a fuck about what people have to, like, think about what you're doing, and just see that as a reflection of how they live their lives.
Right.
Like, what are they projecting on you right now and telling you what you shouldn't be doing that they should be doing?
Right. Like when trends become the norm, right?
Exactly, yeah. Like, don't live your life through memes. Like, actually have a fucking brain for yourself. And it's okay to have another opinion than your friends. Like, that shit's so cool. When you're like, oh, my friends love this, but I don't fucking like that shit. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
You can still be friends with those people and not like the shit that they like. It's okay. You're an individual.
Yeah, in a way, social media, in the most ironic way, it's given individuals the power to express themselves, but in the same breath, it's also removed individualism because now people have to cater to trends and to the expectations of those trends and the consequences of them, right? So, for instance, if you're an artist, I know myself, like, tattooing, sometimes I'm hesitant to post something because it's not something I know that's not going to be like what everyone else is posting. Yeah. I know the same thing goes for music and musicians and people of other like crafts and practices, right? And mediums. Like, there's this expectation of what is popular and what's going to, like, go viral. Yeah. And so being an individual is no longer like it's no longer like a treat. It does, what is it?
Like a treat. Like,
yeah, like, it doesn't yield as much as it does to just, like, go with the masses.
Exactly, when you're trying to get that, like, what's the word? Like, the eye. Like, you're trying to, like, get that pull from, you know, the public, or that view or something.
I think it's just because, like, a big factor in that is that our society is just so, like, success and production driven.
Yeah.
That sometimes that individuality can be just seen as a waste of time. A waste
That's
of
what I'm growing out of
crushed
right
by
now.
capitalism.
What are you doing that for? What are you making that little song for? That ain't making you no money.
Not feeling productive.
So then people sell out.
Yeah, like, well, I make money, and in my free time, I make music. You know.
Yeah.
So, like, or it could be anything. That's just one.
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, the arts aren't seen as something that makes you money. So it's like, how can you
I
be?
feel like art is definitely undervalued
In our society, right?
in a lot of places, and it's also overvalued in a lot
Yeah.
of places as well. Like,
It's like a
That makes
weird
sense.
paradox, right?
Yeah, it really is.
and I feel like it's crazy, but like social media kind of created both of those.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like
it
this art
created the
sells.
undervalue of art and the overvalue in some places. Like, look what happened with NFT markets.
Yeah.
Like, extremely overvalued art.
Yeah.
And came crashing down dramatically.
It's interesting. It's like we are the meme. Like
Yeah.
we become like they existed before they were on social media.
Mm-hmm.
We just gave it. We just chose to define it in different ways, and we made them jokes. And they're still existing, and they exist outside of social media. They're us. That's why they're funny. That's why you see it and you understand it, right? Because you're like, this is all I am is just like an archetype and just a bunch of roles put together to work in this machine, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we are like at 10 seconds. Do you guys have anything to say real quick?
Fuck! Shit!
Thanks, guys. Okay, bye.